Hey everyone, my name is Suyash and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, we will cover artifacts in Google ADK, which is the mechanism that allows agents to handle non-textual binary data like files, audio, video, images. We also have a demo that we cover in this tutorial, so do watch the video till the very end. Let's get started. In this video, we are going to talk about artifacts in Google ADK. If your agent needs to work with real files, then this is the feature that you would want. We'll try to keep it practical. We will look at what it is, why it matters, and how it actually works in the code. So at the end, we will do a code demo to have a better understanding of how to implement and how to work with artifacts in Google ADK. State versus artifacts. Now, we have covered state in the previous videos, and if you remember, session state is for lightweight context. It handles strings, integers, and small dictionaries. But once we start dealing with files, non-textual data, big payloads like audio, images, reports, the state gets messy and heavy. And that's where artifacts come in. Artifacts is the proper place for file-like data. So artifacts is a dedicated mechanism within ADK which is used to manage named, versioned binary data, right, without bloating the conversational memory. For example, if you ask the agent to generate a report on, say, a topic called as RAG, then the state will store the topic equal to RAG, but the artifact will actually maintain the output, which is the report.pdf, the actual binary data. So this is how the separation of concerns is maintained. So what does an artifact actually look like under the hood? Let's see that. In ADK, artifacts are represented using the standard Google GenAI-types.Part object. The binary or the file data is stored in the inline underscore data, and there are two important attributes. One is the data, which is the payload itself, and the other one is the MIME type. MIME type tells the downstream systems on how to actually interpret this data. So it's like an identifier which tells what kind of file this is. For example, image/png for an image, or application/pdf. Now in real world, we as users would have already used this artifact mechanism under the hood when we interact with file data, when we provide files to these LMs. So in case of real world scenarios, when a user like you and me upload a file on the front end, right, and then ask the agent to summarize, that's where the artifact mechanism is being used. When we asked the LLMs, the chatbots, to generate a report, that's where artifacts are used. If there is any intermediate processing that the agent does, that's where artifacts get used. And if there are any assets or persistent artifacts which are user specific and they are stored for a user across sessions, again, artifacts come into picture. Now let's try to understand how ADK implements this mechanism of artifacts. So just like ADK has services to manage different mechanisms, like there is a memory management service, similarly for artifacts, there's a base artifact service. So the storage and retrieval of these files are entirely abstracted from the agent via this service. So now this service provides a few operations that allows us to interact with these artifacts or binary data, and they are pretty easy to understand. So you can save the artifact, which returns a version once you save it. You can load the artifact, you can list the artifact, you can list the versions of artifacts, and you can delete artifacts. So we will look at each of these operations in the code in the demo at the end. But right now, just try to get a feel of what operations are provided by this artifact service. Now, when we talk about artifacts like files, versioning becomes very important. And the good news is the artifact service within ADK automatically handles versioning. We don't have to do any manual sequence tracking. So for example, if you save an artifact with the name of report.pdf, it automatically gets the 0 indexed version. Okay, it gets v0. And when you load an artifact with that file name and you also provide the version 0, you get the v0 of report.pdf. Now, when you save it again, the artifact service automatically increments the version to v1. When you save it again, it increments it to v2. And now when you try to load this artifact with the file name and you do not provide a version, it automatically retrieves the latest version of that artifact based on the file name. So again, we'll look at this in the code, but the bottom line is ADK and the artifact service manages the versioning automatically. Next, we can also control the scope of these artifacts with the help of namespaces or prefixes. So by default, if you just give the file name and extension, the artifact is scoped to a session. Okay, and when you create a new session, that artifact is lost. But you can also scope that artifact to a user at a user level by prefixing the user so that this artifact is now available globally across different sessions for the same user. Okay. So for example, if you save an artifact with the name of report.pdf and you create a new session, it gets lost. But you save an image profile.png with the prefix user, you will still be able to access this artifact in a different session for the same user. Now let's try to understand how tools actually call these artifact operations that we saw. And that's done by context objects. So agents and tools interact with artifacts using methods that are applied on the context objects. Context objects are callback context and tool context. So if you remember one of our previous tutorials about callbacks, it was the 7th tutorial about callbacks, where we talked about callbacks, which are essentially functions called at different stages of agent execution. In these callbacks or functions, there are context objects available, such as callback context or tool context, right? There is tool context. So these context objects have methods that we looked at previously, such as save artifact, load artifact, list artifacts, and so on. So these methods are actually called on the callback context objects. Now let's look at the two backend options that ADK provides us with. The first one is in-memory artifact service. And as the name suggests, it is in memory. So it is ephemeral, meaning it gets permanently lost the moment the application terminates. It's fast, it's free, and it's used for local development and tutorials like this one. But if you want a production grade artifact service, then there is a GCS artifact service, which uses Google Cloud Storage. It's persistent, it is scalable, it's durable, and it's able to store distinct versions as well. It's suited for production, but then you require Google Cloud Project and the related resources. Now that we have covered a high-level overview of the artifacts in Google ADK, let's jump into the use case, the code, and the demo. In this demo, we have implemented a simple notebook agent, and it supports two practical workflows. The first is note management. So we are able to create notes and save them in Markdown format. We are able to read those notes. We are able to update those notes. We are also able to list all the notes. And the second workflow is more towards the scoping at a user level, where we are able to save user preferences. And then we are also able to load these preferences later in another session. You can find the implementation in this folder of ADK artifacts. This is the artifact notebook agent, and it's a simple agent.py file. I'll quickly go through the code and then we'll look at the live demo. So we have the mandatory imports, right? We have the agent class, we have tool context. We have a simple prompt where we define the persona of the agent. It's a artifact notebook assistant. And then we have scenario-based tool calling, intent-based tool calling. If the intent is to create a note, then call this tool. So we will look at the tools that we have defined in the code in a moment. But then depending on the intent, we are asking the agent to call the tool. So we have around 9 functions in this py file. Three functions are helper functions, and there are actually six important function tools where we use the artifact methods. So the first helper method is used to handle the file name, to sanitize the file name. The second is to convert data from one format to another, and similarly, third helper function. So we'll not focus a lot on these helper functions. Let's focus on the function tools where we have implemented the artifact methods. Okay, so the first function tool is the save note artifact. This is the function tool to create the text note. It accepts the title, the body, and the context object. Now, what is important is we use the save artifact method on the context object. Okay, and we provide the file name and the artifact. Okay, so we have the file name which is derived from the note title, and then we provide the artifact, right, which is the actual content of the note, and we formatted it in such a way that we will see the title, then we will see the body, and then we will see the timestamp when this was created. Okay, so this function tool will be called when we ask the agent to create a note, and we return a structured dictionary which helps the LLM to summarize the final response to the agent. We have covered this in the function tools tutorial on the best practices, so do check that out. So this was the first function tool. The second is append. As the name suggests, the agent will use this tool to append text to an existing note. So here we have the file name and the additional text and the context object. So first we load the artifact with the file name, then we update the content with the existing text and the additional text, and then we save the artifact with the same file name but different content. And in this case, ADK will automatically increment the version because the file name was same. Okay. Next, we have read notes. So this function tool helps to retrieve the content of the note. So we use the load artifact method here, where we provide the file name, but we also provide the version so that we get a specific version of that artifact. And then we provide the content to the LLM, so it includes the content of that artifact in the response, in the final response. Next, we have list. So this function tool helps to list the artifact keys that are available. Okay, here we use the list artifacts method. Now the next two function tools are more to show the scoping aspect. So here we are saving an artifact, okay, but what we are doing is we have a hard-coded file name which stores the preferences of the user, but we have prefixed it with user. So when this artifact gets saved, you will see that later in the demo, this file will persist across sessions. Okay, so this function tool is used to store the user preferences, and then we have read user profile artifact tool, which is able to retrieve the user preferences from the file, from the artifact file. And then finally, we have the agent definition. We have the name, we have the model, we have the description, we have the root prompt as instruction, and then all these six function tools that we defined, which use the artifact operations on the context objects, are defined in tools. So now let's go to ADK Web UI and try to run some prompts. So in the README file, I do have some demo prompts that we will use, and these will ensure that we invoke each of this function tool and we are able to observe the different operations that are available for artifacts. Okay, so let's move to the ADK Web UI now. So this is the ADK Web UI. We have selected the artifact notebook agent. Let's see if it actually is able to respond. Okay, so it is able to respond. Now what I will do is I'll copy one prompt at a time and I'll show you how the artifact operations work. So let's copy the first sample prompt, create a concise study note on RAG and save it as RAG basics. Okay, so let me copy this. When I run this prompt, you will see that the function tool was called save note artifact. And then in artifacts, you will see that an artifact was created, a markdown file, which is rag basics. And the agent finally tells us that it has created a study note under this name. And if I open this markdown file, you will see that there is a title, there is a body, and there is a timestamp. So this is how we had ensured the content of the note looks like, right? Now let's look at next prompt. So I'm going to list all the saved notes, and naturally there's only one note. So let's see if it's able to. So now when we ran this prompt, it invoked the list note artifacts function tool, and it correctly said that it found this note ragbasics.md, and we see it here, right? There's only one artifact. Let's look at the next prompt where we are trying to read the note, the content of the note. So here the read note artifact tool was called, and it was able to extract the information and share it with us. So this is the title, this is the note, and this is the timestamp. Okay, let's look at the next prompt. Now let's try to append 3 interview questions to the existing note. Okay, the agent correctly called the tool, which is append to note artifact, and it gave a response saying that it has appended these interview questions to ragbasics.md. Okay, now if I look at this markdown, you will see that it has the previous content, but it also has the interview questions which were appended. Now let's look at the next prompt. So now let's try to read the rag basics MD, but this time we have provided the version because we want to see the previous version, right? So let's see what happens. It called the function tool read note artifact, and because we provided the version 0, it was able to fetch the 0th version, which is the first basic version. And you can see it has a title, it has a note, and it has a timestamp, right? So this also works fine. Let's look at the next prompt. Now let's this time just say read the rag basics file, and remember we are not providing the version. So if we do not provide the version, it automatically fetches the latest version. Okay, so the agent says it got the latest content of rag basics, which is our first version. And you can see it has a title, it has content, it has timestamp, and then it also has the appended interview questions. Okay, next, now let's look at the scoping of the artifacts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save my preferences. Now when I run this, you see that this tool was called, and this tool is responsible for saving the preferences in hard-coded file. And you observe that an artifact was created with the prefix. Okay, if I open this, you see that this is the preferences that we specified in the prompt. Now what I will do is I will create a new session, and I'll try to load this user preference file. Okay, so first I'll take this prompt where I'm trying to load the preferences. Okay, I'll create a new session. Now you see that you don't actually see any artifacts here, but if I run this prompt, you see that it was able to load our preferences from the previous session. As you can see, it looks like you prefer a practical tone, short intros, and code first demos. Now to show you, if we try to read the rag basics notes, it will not be able to return it. Okay, so let's copy this prompt. Okay, and let's see if it's able to retrieve the artifact which was created in the previous session, and it's not able to do that. I can't find a note named ragbasics.md. So this is how, if we scope our artifact with the prefix user, it's able to persist across different sessions for the user. That's all for today. We have come to the end of the tutorial. I hope you're very clear about artifacts in Google ADK. What are artifacts? What is their purpose? Why are they required? What are the different operations, and so on, right? And I hope that this demo gave a clear picture of the different operations that we can apply, that we can use on the artifacts. If you like this video, if you felt that this video was helpful, do like, do share, do subscribe, and stay tuned for future videos. Thank you.